Welcome to a special edition of the Move podcast. You're going to see some different faces here. This is going to be fun. Trades and transfers in the off season. My name is JB Hager, and you've seen me on the Move. Of course, you've seen Johan Bruneel on the Move, JB Squared, all kinds of shit. La Movida, he's everywhere. And but you haven't. I don't think this is a first appearance for Spencer Martin on the Move podcast. Am I correct on that?
I think so. I could be wrong, but I don't recall being on here previously.
Of course, you may know Spencer if you are a We Do member and you've listened to Outcomes with both Spencer and Johan. But we thought it'd be really fun to have Spencer on this edition of the Move because, man, between the two of you, the stuff that you know that happens in the off season, behind the scenes with teams is just off the charts. And so you're both perfect to do this show.
The Trades and Transfers show is brought to you by Zwift. Now, y'all know I was reluctant, but now I am fully converted. You know, I live in a mountain climate. It's snowing every day. Can't get out on my bike. Can't get my supper on. Zwift has solved it for me. This is I just can't say it any stronger. I have converted. Check out some of these stats too. 18,000 of you have joined WeDo on a Zwift ride from 70 different countries. 141,000 miles ridden since October 5th. That's Race Across America done 47 times, in case you're wondering. 74% of the people who do WeDo Wednesday finish the ride. This is not some hammer session, unless you're George, then he does hammer. But listen, bottom line, Zwift makes indoor training fun. They also have the new Hub Direct Drive Trainer, and it's affordable, $499. That's a bargain price, but punches well above its weight. Visit Zwift.com for a free trial to find out more. Again, that's Zwift.com. All you outdoor kiddies, come on inside. That's Zwift.com.
So let's dig right into it. You guys have been doing your homework. I've got pages and pages of notes in front of me of all the things that have been happening in the off season. So let's jump right into it. And we're going to start stick around to the end because we're going to do really basically who were the big winners and losers of changing their rosters. But we're going to start off with the subject that we all love so much, and that is Mark Cavendish. Everyone is trying to speculate where Mark Cavendish is going to go. In fact, it's gotten a little ridiculous on the internet of people faking photos. And I even fell for it one time, and Johan called it. Johan is the sleuth of Twitter, by the way. Where is Cavendish going? So let's start with that, with you guys, your speculations on a home for Cavendish. Of course, we all want to see him in the Tour de France to surpass the record set by Eddie Merckx of Tour de France wins. What do you guys think? Let's start with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, first off, we are still all surprised that Cavendish, first of all, didn't get a renewal of his contract with next year going to be Soudal Quickstep, the name of the team. But at the same time, it also makes sense. I think, you know, they have they're focusing on Remco Evenepoel and on Fabio Jakobsen, and also they got a new sprinter in with the name of Tim Merlier. But I guess, you know, it's strange to be talking mid-December about, you know, I would say arguably definitely one of the best sprinters in history of cycling, and him still being without a team. Now, you know, we can all be speculating here, and maybe Cavendish has a deal signed already. Most likely he has, or it's pretty far advanced. We all know that he was waiting for this new project of B&B hotels, which was supposed to be a bigger team, and now finally that team doesn't happen. But there's not that many teams who can afford Mark Cavendish at this moment. You know, of course, he's a great rider, he's a great sprinter, but it also comes with a certain demand for a salary. You know, probably not the value, his value in the market, but still, you know, he's a very, very big asset. And in my opinion, There's only two teams that right now Cavendish can go to. There's been talks and rumors about him returning to Ineos. It could make sense, he was there already before. He won stages for them. He was world champion when he was on Ineos. And, thinking about Cavendish on Ineos, that with, the first question I would ask then is, what about the Tour de France, right? Because if you take a sprinter like Cavendish to the Tour, you need 2 or 3 guys around him, which compromises the strength and the depth of the team for the GC. So maybe Ineos has doubts and question marks about Egan Bernal. I mean, I think it would be justified because, he comes back from very far. But I really don't see any other place for which would make sense is Israel Premier Tech. I think that's the team that Cavendish should go to. And both of the parties are super interested. Israel Premier Tech, they've been relegated from first division. Their team owner has said numerous times that he was going to sue the UCI. To do that, you have to go to TAS or to CAS in English. I wish him good luck there because he's never going to win. It's always the institutions who win there. And so if Cavendish would go there, what's the guy's name? Sylvain Adams, I guess. He definitely has deep pockets. He has shown already in the past, to hire Chris Froome. I think Chris Froome was a mistake, but I would definitely say Cavendish would be the right thing to do for Adams and Israel Premier Tech to hire him. What do you think, Spencer?
Yeah, I think it's the perfect marriage. I mean, the beauty of B&B is kind of an odd team. You're like, why would Mark Cavendish leave Quick-Step, one of the best teams, to go to B&B, which is literally was literally the worst team in the sport? But it opened up a lane for him to go to the Tour. There was no competition. He's a guaranteed Tour de France start. They're going to devote a whole team around him to go for sprint wins. Ineos gets a little complicated there. I do think Ineos, it almost provides sleight of hand for them. If they bring in Cavendish, it gives Bernal another year to recover from his accident. It distracts the British public from the fact that they actually don't have a rider who can win the Tour, even though they have the biggest budget by a mile. So that could work with Ineos, but Israel's also a perfect marriage. I mean, they need to get to the Tour de France. It's funny because they got relegated and now everything's opening up for them to actually nullify all the downsides of that relegation. If they just sign Cavendish, they're going to go to any Grand Tour they want. They get invites to all the one-day races. I wouldn't be surprised if a contract has already been signed. I mean, I just read this morning that his former teammate said that he's already signed a contract. He just didn't disclose which team it was with. I would be shocked if it was not Israel because it solves so many of their problems. Like, as you say, they're going to get invited to the Tour. They have the money. I mean, Sylvain Adams is a wealthy Canadian Israeli businessman. I don't think he wants to throw money away. Maybe he feels like he did with Chris Froome, but Cavendish on a 1-year deal, that's good value, in my opinion. If he can still win a Tour stage, that's big for that team. I mean, they had never won a Tour stage until last year when they won 2, but they didn't really do it in a replicable way. So Cavendish gives them, not a guaranteed Tour win, but a really good shot to win a Tour and then to have all that publicity.
Plus the thing is also, they're definitely really unhappy with their relegation. They've tried to call for exceptions because of COVID last year and the year before, and so they absolutely want to be in the biggest race. And I personally think for a guy like Adams, I'm not going to say it's pocket money, but compared to what he has spent on other riders, I think it's a no-brainer. Plus, if my information is right, Israel Premier Tech have been told by ASO, by the Tour de France, that if they sign Cavendish, they're in the Tour. And I think it make now with the disappearance of B&B, a French team, there's even more room for invites. So I think they have to sign him.
Can you guys shed a little light on this for me? Because the relegation system is newer to cycling. And just enlighten me a little bit and our audience. How does a relegated team get a guaranteed invite of any sort? Or, how do we know they're going to be in the Tour de France or have that invite? How does that work?
Yeah, well, I mean, Israel doesn't know. Israel is not sure because they're relegated together with Lotto Soudal. Next year, Lotto Destiny, the change of name. But so Lotto Destiny is in the first position of the second division teams. And so first position and second position of the year 2022, they are automatically invited to all the big races, one-day races and the big tours. Israel, Premier Tech, they're relegated, but take into account the points of 2022, they're only in third position. So they are only invited for the one-day races. And they need a special invitation, which is still possible. The Tour de France can invite other teams. And so they have to rely on that. So that's a reason more to do this, make this signing, get in the Tour, which is their main objective. And on top of that, make history. It's basically, profiting of all the work that has been done by Cavendish in the past and the other teams, and just have that one special win and break that record. It would be amazing.
Yeah, I can't imagine the value of the headlines for the sponsors. Just like look where we're talking about it now in December, as you pointed out. It's hard to put a price tag on the publicity that will get. Of course, he has to be healthy going into the Tour, because you got to do some sprinting leading up to the Tour to get your legs right, and it's obviously a very, very risky endeavor.
I want to ask you, Johan. I've like a lot of people ask me, like, why isn't he just racing for the minimum? Just get on a team because it's going to be worth it for him to set the record. I would answer. It's always nice to have more money. Everyone wants more money, but he probably wants to get paid what he feels is at least close to his market value.
Exactly. That's also the conversation I had with Mark. When we were fortunate to have him on our camp in Mallorca, so we had a few talks, and I think that's the case. He doesn't want the maximum. His agent is not negotiating to get the maximum possible. But let's not forget, he has been racing for close to the minimum last season. He was picked up at the last moment, No, the year before. Sorry, the year before, because this year he didn't do the Tour. But so he's been racing for a smaller salary for the last 2 years. So at some point you say, hey, I'm still, I'm the guy with the most victories in the Tour de France together with Eddie Merckx. I have been world champion, green jersey, not how many times. So I think it's only logical that he wants to be appreciated, right? And I think that was the main reason why he has been sticking so long to that project of B&B Hotel, because there he felt like he was paid his value and felt appreciated. Right.
I hate it when people throw out do they need the money? Like that's so insulting to an athlete or anyone in any career with those sort of accolades and palmares, right? That's insulting.
Yeah, it's also some feel proud about yourself. At the end of the day, he's a big champion, and no matter how much he likes bike racing, and no matter how bad he wants to break that record, but everything has a limit. He's not going to race. He's not going to race for free. That's just you can do it for 1 year, but not 3 years in a row.
And he went to that. He was on that quick step, like the Lefebvre special. It was probably a very low salary with some incentives. And he's like, he probably feels like he proved himself. He won a bunch of Tour stages, and then he's not going back to that minimum after, coming back from the wilderness like that. It's just, as JB says, is insulting. And then also lifestyles expand. I'm sure he has a fairly expensive lifestyle. He's 38 years old, 37 going on 38. He's got a lot of life left to live. So
he has,
nice.
I don't know if he has 4 kids or 5.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Kids are expensive.
There's still a lot of years to live, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, you make a good point, Spencer, too. You're 38 years old. People forget that these athletes really are retiring at such a young age.
Yeah.
And you've got to, have the money to survive 40, 50 more years, right? We probably can't spend too much on Cavendish. In fact, I even considered peeling this off as a separate show because I knew everyone's so passionate about it. Maybe we'll, do a break-off show when we do find out where he goes and see what that looks like. But I think for the sake of time and getting into what all these teams look like going into 2023, let's move on. One other one-off athlete that we do want to spend some time on is Nairo Quintana. Where does he go? Is a big question mark.
I think it's a big question mark, and at the end of the day, okay, we all know what happened. So Quintana had a positive test for tramadol in the Tour de France. He didn't. It's a strange rule. It's forbidden in the race, but it's not considered performance enhancing. It's actually quite the opposite. If it would do anything, it would slow you down. Tramadol, but it was on the list, so he tested positive during the Tour de France and didn't get a suspension. So he was free to race, but his team Arkea didn't renew his contract, and now he's looking for a team. At some point you have to think. Quintana says, "Yeah, I have a team." Then my question is, well, why don't you announce it? Or why doesn't the team announce it?
Yeah.
Why wait? So I personally think he hasn't signed anything yet. There's not that many places where Quintana can go. What do you think? What would be a good option for Quintana, Spencer?
It's a little awkward, but I think Movistar, the team that he left, and maybe not the best standing just a few years ago. If you go through their roster, I don't want to be unkind. They're probably trying very hard there, and they do have some talented riders. I would not feel like it's at the level of what a World Tour team should be. Like they're almost a second division team that's in the World Tour with their current roster. Quintana is not a perfect rider by any means. He's fairly limited in what he can do, but he fills a major gap for them. He can go to the Tour and finish 6th overall. Like that's not insignificant.
He was 6th. He was 6th this year. I would even take it further than that. I think they're going to go full with Enric Mas as the leader for the Tour de France, especially after his strong performance in the Vuelta of this year. But there's a lot of other races, and there's the Giro and the Vuelta, and Quintana can definitely do those races. He's won both of them already. And he has shown, and in the last 2 years, that in the beginning of the season he was really in great shape. He's personally responsible for Arkea to be in the World Tour right now.
Yeah,
with the points he has won in the spring of 2021 and 22. So I think you're right. I think that's probably one of the only, the best option for him. But above all, I know for a fact that the brand Movistar, the telephone company, their interest in South America is huge. And Quintana is, I would say, arguably the biggest name in Colombia still. Bigger than Bernal, although Bernal won the Tour de France, but Quintana is the guy. It's like a religion. He's super popular. And I think Movistar would definitely score big in terms of goodwill to the South American public as a brand if they get Quintana on board. So the only reason. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the rider he probably didn't get along with the most was Mikel Landa, who's no longer with the team. Would you say?
I think Mikel Landa and Valverde were both, that didn't work so well. So Valverde has retired, although he does remain on the staff. But he's not racing anymore. So
he wants to do gravel. That was
a
rumor, right?
Gravel races. True. Yeah,
he'll be occupied with that. He'll be in Kansas at the Unbound.
Listen, I've seen images there. They're training in the south of Spain, and Valverde's on the bike in the Movistar uniform, as fit as always, and probably hurting most of the guys.
Yeah.
So But yeah, I think that's probably the team he can go to. And then we do have this, new opportunity all of a sudden since yesterday for Quintana, I would say, which is Astana. For those who have been following the news, Astana Vinokurov has terminated the contract of their star rider, Miguel Angel Lopez, Superman Lopez, for his alleged involvement in some kind of doping scandal here in Spain. We don't know the details, but the contract has been terminated. So I would think Astana needs to they need to make a move. They have nobody now. Miguel Angel Lopez was the guy who was scoring a lot of points for them. Won stages, did some good classifications. I think he was third or fourth was he in the Vuelta? Third or fourth? Or fifth? No, fifth.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Quintana could be a good replacement. So I think another door opens there for Quintana. And so I think what's going to make the decision here is, Quintana left Arkea, but not just Quintana. Quintana, his brother, Dyer Quintana, winner Anacona, another rider, and then 2 or 3 staff members. Now, Quintana is now in a situation where he's only seeing himself as a possibility, and that would definitely be if he goes to Movistar. But if he looks at Astana, he could say, okay, I'll come, but my brother needs to come, this guy needs to come, and this. And in Astana, they would most likely be willing to do that. So that could be a decision maker if he has to choose between both of the teams.
Today's show also brought to you by LMNT. Folks, you hear me talk about it all the time. Even in the winter months when I'm indoors riding, I'm sweating my ass off, and I'm not afraid to say it. A projectile sweat. I've got a solution. It's LMNT. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, no gluten, no sugar, no artificial bullshit. This is the real deal. By the way, at the end of the day, if you don't like it, give it to a friend. They'll give you a refund. Free gift with the purchase. Our listeners get a free LMNT sample pack with any order when you order at drinklmnt.com/TheMove. That sample pack includes 1 packet of every flavor. So that's citrus, raspberry, orange, and unflavored. It's perfect for anyone who's interested in trying all the flavors and just want to dial in what you like the best. We offer no questions when they ask for refunds. Don't even have to send it back. Again, pass it to a friend, one of your salty friends. Again, drinklmnt.com/TheMove. Today also brought to you by HVMN. Today's show was on trades and transfers. I can tell you one thing that these teams and these riders at the top level are not trading out. It is their ketone IQ. They launched the first world's drinkable ketone in 2017. Ketone IQ is their latest innovation on ketones with improved effectiveness, taste, and cost. Ketone IQs delivers clean fuel that can cross the blood-brain barrier, supplying your brain and body sustained energy, mental focus, and sharpness. Go on over to hvmn.com. Use the promo code THEMOVE20 at checkout. That gets you 20% off. That's hvmn.com, and the promo code is THEMOVE20.
One of the things I didn't know until you guys enlightened me, as you do on every show, I didn't realize that the teams have a maximum, and for a lot of them, there's no positions available.
Yeah.
So that's always a factor. What is that number, and whose rosters are completely full, right?
Well, I think there's full technically, right? It's 30 riders is the most you can have on a team, Johan. Is that right?
Yeah, there's 30 riders. And I don't know exactly. I think in order to have 30, you have to have 2 neo-professionals. I'm not sure. I mean, back in the days, it was like that. I don't know if that's still the case. But a fact is that a lot of teams have their 30 riders already. And then I think there's 6 or 7 teams who still have, 27, 28, or 29. So obviously, you have to look at that if we're guessing about new teams. But if you really want a rider, even let me tell you, if Astana, for example, I don't know if they have 30 riders,
they have
and
29,
they want Quintana.
Sorry. You're saying hypothetically, if they have 30.
Yeah, hypothetically, if they have 30 riders and they want Quintana, and I think they need Quintana, in my opinion, or a rider of his caliber, they're going to make a space. There's going to be one rider, rider number 30, who's on, probably a lower contract, and they're going to say, hey, sorry, we're going to pay you a contract. We'll find you a team. And we'll pay your contract. You can go to this team for free.
Wait. Okay. Go explain that a little bit with a little more clarity for me and the listeners there, Johan. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if a team wants to make a space, they can pay a rider to leave and go race elsewhere. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, they are obligated to pay the contract, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you pay the contract and there's no race opportunity, obviously the rider is in a disadvantage. He could, in theory, sue the team and say, okay, they paid me, but they terminated my future, So I've been in the situation in the past where, I had, for example, when I did the merge with Astana, with Astana, for example, we had Discovery was finishing their contract, and I had 8 riders that basically I wanted to go on with, and I got called by Astana to go manage the team there. So I brought those 8 riders, but they had already like 26 or 27 contracts. So we had 34 or 35 contracts in place. And the maximum was 30. So what did we do? We talked to certain riders. We said, okay, this is happening. And we talked to other teams, because the other team also has to be willing to accept the rider. Okay, if it's a good enough rider and as a team you get them for free, then that's a pretty good deal. But maybe the team doesn't want this rider, right? So it's not a one person or one party decision. It's a 2-party or a 3-party decision, right? But so that can happen. That can happen, and that will probably happen if there's a team with 30 riders and they want Quintana or they want Cavendish, then that's not a problem. It's too bad for the rider, because obviously that's his first choice. But those are things that happen. It happens in all sports, and it happens in cycling too.
Interesting. As you were talking, Johan, it occurred to me, perhaps, we don't know what we're talking about. I don't have any information, but if they fired Lopez, that's a pretty strong move, or ended their contractual relationship. And then Quintana's saying, well, I have a team. Is Astana the team that he's already signed for, and that gave them the confidence to move off Lopez so quickly? And he's not secretly signed him, but just signed with them already, and they haven't disclosed it yet. I'm wondering if that's what's going on behind the scenes here.
It could be, it could be that Quintana had already made the deal, and that Astana and Vinokurov knew already they were going to fire Lopez, but that they had to wait until they had the documents of that investigation, probably.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. I hadn't thought about that, Spencer. That could actually be the case.
And that would solve the question of why. So Nairo, why won't you disclose your team? And this would be a tidy reason for that.
Yeah. Obviously,
I love how you guys dig into this, like the soap opera part of it, trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes to put the pieces together. Hey, if you guys heard, and we'll move on to some of the bigger teams and the trades and transfers, but obviously the economic downturn we're going through right now affects things. We've heard in the past, it made me think of it when you said it, talking about Astana, they have had trouble in the past making payroll. Have you heard any rumblings of, a financial disaster for any of these teams on the horizon, or we don't know yet?
I haven't heard anything, but obviously, we've seen that this BNB project and this promised, new money that was going to come in from the city of Paris didn't happen. Obviously, the times are not ideal right now to go find new money, unless you have this, like Ineos or UAE or Bahrain, or where it's basically one person who decides, okay, I'm going to write a check, right? But other than that, I think the teams are actually in pretty good shape, financially. obviously it's still the same bad business model that cycling has. Cycling teams don't make money. They just try to get as much possible money to get the best possible riders, the best possible infrastructure, the best possible traveling, and the best possible hotels. And what you get is what you spend, right? But overall, I see that we've seen more and more long-term contracts of young talent. So obviously that means that the teams are financially stable for several years. So yeah, I mean, I think cycling is in good shape economically. The teams, I think they're doing well.
Not to go too off track, but it really is amazing when you think about like the value. Like if you said, what is the value of a Premier League football club? Manchester United. If somebody wanted to buy it tomorrow, right? It's probably $1 billion in the billions, right? And you have cycling. You have cycling that is, arguably one of the biggest sports globally, and a team is worth nothing. This is mind-boggling to me. It's money in, money out every single year.
Yeah, there are no fixed assets that are sustainable over time. As a team, your biggest asset is your sponsorship contract. That's it. You don't have a stadium, you don't have a fan base, a fixed fan base, because a team can disappear football clubs, soccer, they don't disappear. They're there. That's a culture. It's a religion, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, JB, you just referred to the club by its name. I mean, there's no cycling teams don't have names. Like
right.
Think of US Postal. It's like, it's Discovery all of a sudden. And it's like hard to build that brand equity.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. All right. Let's jump into the big players, the teams, the moves, the transfers. Let's start with Jumbo. What are the major moves that have happened in the off season?
Spencer, you want to?
Yeah. So
weigh in on that?
Obviously already a good team. You could maybe say the best team in the sport. The bad news for everyone in the peloton is they got better in the offseason. They bring in Wilco Kelderman from Bora, who's, I would assume, Johan, maybe you can speak to this, that he's going from an outside GC contender part of his career to highly paid domestique, perhaps. And then Dylan Van Baarle, who's, I think this is like the signing of the season. The guy wins Paris-Roubaix last year. He's kind of a Wout van Aert mini-me because he can win monuments, but he can also provide work in Grand Tours for leaders. But his work isn't limited just to the flats. He can work in the mountains. He can work on hilly stages, work on flat stages. Super valuable rider. Jan Trenkic, who's like a talented kind of veteran Slovenian climber. And then Attila Valter, who I think is a really talented young Hungarian rider on FDJ. And they lose, in theory, they lose a lot of talent. They lose Tom Dumoulin. He retires. You'd think, wow, that's devastating. But, by the end of his tenure, his production was not that difficult to replace. He really is, his best rides were at the Olympics, for his national team, not for Jumbo. Mike Tunison, he's a good race winner, but I never really thought he fit that well with the team. And certainly Van Baarle can replace the work he was providing in Grand Tours and in one-day races. And then Pascal Encorn's kind of the same way. I thought they were kind of Dutch riders who were brought on before Jumbo became what it was with Jonas Vingegaard and Primož Roglic. So losing them, not a huge loss, in my opinion, even though those are good riders and they're going to go on probably to have great careers with the teams that they're heading off to. This is, I think, Jumbo kind of coming into its fully formed GC destroying. And it's a difficult line they're walking. They're trying to win Grand Tours, maybe multiple Grand Tours in a season, and then also multiple one-day monuments.
And now on top of that, being the favorite also, Spencer, they won the Tour de France. So they're the favorite now to win again.
Yeah.
So they need to get stronger. I mean, once you're in the position of being the reference team, every year you need to get stronger and stronger because all eyes are on you. It becomes a race of, okay, you guys are going to win. So, Vingegaard has shown that he was the strongest guy. Roglic was off, with his crashes and stuff. But in theory, next year, if Vingegaard and Roglic, if they're together, which is still to be decided, if Roglic goes for the Tour or if he goes for the Giro, but still, it's the strongest team. So they need to keep adding this horsepower. to the team because they're going to be more and more all eyes on them and the team that everybody looks at to control the race. I think they did a really good job in hiring. I mean, basically, if you look at Kelderman and Van Baarle, those guys, and Tratnik, those are three really solid guys. Tratnik, I think, is at the petition of Roglic, obviously, Slovenian guy.
Yeah,
I think they're training partners. But those are three really strong additions to Jumbo-Visma. And as you say, what they lose, they're not going to feel it. They're not going to feel. I mean, they already lost Tom Dumoulin, basically, right? I mean, he did the Giro, but then after the Giro, that was it, for him. And then, Mike Teunissen, Chris Harper, and Enkhoorn, they're not going to feel that. And on top of that, they have young riders coming up. I mean, they have this unbelievable talent here. Also, I mean, not for the Grand Tours, but Olaf Kooi, was 20 years old. I think he won 10 or 11 races. And they keep developing young riders with their development program also. So I think Jumbo-Visma, they did a really, really good job in the off season. I mean, it's not the off season. It's like Van Baarle was probably already signed before the Tour de France. But
that's the funny thing about all this.
He won Paris-Roubaix, but let's not forget he was second in Tour of Flanders also. He was second in Tour of Flanders, and the year before he was second in the World Championship. This is a big name, which Ineos is going to feel the absence of a guy like Van Baarle in a lot of races.
I was shocked we'll talk about Ineos a little bit later. I was shocked they didn't offer him something that made it worth his while to stay, but maybe he couldn't be bought. Maybe he needs to be at Jumbo for personal reasons or something we can't.
I mean, see. He's Dutch. Jumbo is a Dutch team. At some point, he also wants his freedom. I mean, obviously he had his freedom in the classics there, but I don't know. I think Van Baarle, going to Jumbo-Visma, that's a really good move for him, financially for sure, and sporting wise also.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to UAE. Obviously, their goal is to win the Tour de France again with Pogačar. But Spencer, why don't you kick it off with the roster changes at UAE?
Yeah, so like Jumbo, we'll figure out the name at a later date. They get stronger on paper. The only thing about UAE you want to remember is they're kind of an inefficient machine. They'll spend all this money and bring in riders, and then like Pogačar at the Tour last year, that team was incredibly weak. So this isn't written in stone that they're going to be a dominant team next year, but they bring in Adam Yates from Ineos, which is a good pickup. I actually like that for them. Tim Wellens from Lotto Soudal. I think Tim Wellens is a much better rider at UAE than he was, a much better fit than he was at Lotto. Felix Grobschata from Bora, really, really strong rider. And then Jay Vine from Alpecin Quickstep, or Alpecin Deceuninck. I really like that pickup. I think they probably made it worth his while financially to come over. And then Johan and I's favorite, Domen Novak, who we bet on to win at Giro stage, and he almost won. He finished second. But he was, really talented rider, kind of hidden in the woodwork at Bahrain. Maybe he gets a little bit more freedom to go for stage wins at UAE. And they don't lose that much. That's what's big about this transfer season. They lose Rui Costa and Gaviria.
Yeah, that's what I like. That's what I like about UAE. They really they add a lot of good riders, and they, in depth, they don't lose anybody.
No.
Rui Costa, I think he has been a great teammate. Shown his experience, but he's getting at the end of his career. And Gaviria was definitely not on the level that he had to be. And I think Yates, Wellens, Grossartner, Novak, and Vine. That's some great additions, I think. I disagree with you, Spencer, where you say the team was not good around Pogačar. They had a lot of issues. Also, they had crashes. They had COVID. Two guys who pulled out with COVID in the Tour de France pretty early. The only thing that I see in UAE is the fact that, especially for the Grand Tours, everything depends on Pogačar. There is they have Almeida, but Almeida has not been on a podium yet of a Grand Tour, so it's still an unknown. And the team stands or falls with Pogačar, which is a risk.
I feel like they're two teams. When Pogačar's there, like he carried, why Mark Hirschi was in that Tour team is beyond me. He could barely ride a bike. Maybe he was sick and we didn't hear about it. But he still holds the team together when he's not there. As we saw at the Vuelta, very strong team. It kind of looked like they didn't know each other. Like they just showed up and it's like, hey, I'm Juan. Hey, I'm Joao. Let's race together. They're very disorganized when Pogačar's not there. Maybe these, Adam Yates, Tim Wellens are veteran riders. Maybe they can add some leadership when he's not around.
I forgot about Juan Ayuso, because he's so young, 19 years old, obviously, a rider for the future. But if we're talking about the Tour, it's all about Pogačar, right? But I think that in terms of the Tour de France, the additions they've made, they got stronger. And it's like it's a parallel race, right, between Jumbo-Visma and UAE. Yep. In terms of, who goes out and who they hire, and they keep trying to reinforce. At some point, you might almost think, we look, who did they hire? They got this guy. Okay, we need to make a move. We need to have a guy of the same caliber, and they add him to the team. So I think both of those teams, Jumbo-Visma and UAE, they hired well, and they don't lose that much. Which brings us to the last one of the big three, which I think they have a problem because they lose a lot and they don't bring in that much.
And this is like the second straight year of this too, of Ineos, just losses.
Ineos. Why are they losing so much, and who are they losing? Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're losing Van Baarle, who we talked about. They're losing Carapaz, who surprisingly goes to EF, and they're losing Adam Yates, and Richie Porte, who retired. So those are four really, really big riders. If you look at if you look at the watts that these guys generate, and you take that out of the team, and the only really high ranked name that they have hired is Tijmen Arendsman from the ESM, the young Dutch rider. He's been a great rider, but still developing. I mean, he could be one of the guys, but I think Ineos has lost quite a bit in this off season.
But if you just think about their World Tour wins going out the door and their World Tour wins coming in, career wins, I mean, it's staggering. And Arendsman's a great rider. I love Tijmen Arendsman. If we're being realistic, is he going to win a Grand Tour in 2023? And when you're spending the amount of money Ineos is doing, that's how you should be judged. He's not. I think he could be a future Vuelta and Giro winner. But I don't think he's going to win those next year. And they lose guys. Richard Carapaz is probably the third or fourth best GC rider in the world, and he's gone. That's a significant loss.
Yeah, I think so. They are taking a different approach. Ineos, they still have Bernal. Okay, so I think it's a question mark on how he has recovered and is he able to come back to the level that he had before. There's no doubt that Egan Bernal has the quality. He won the Giro, he won the Tour. Still wants to win the Vuelta. Unfortunately, have you been
following Bernal on socials? He's very public with his training.
Yeah,
his efforts.
He did a training ride of 270 kilometers the other day,
which is so interesting to me when you have Bernal's showing everything that he's doing, right? There was showing him out just training in horrible weather, working hard. Then you have a guy like Pogačar that you don't see anything.
Yeah, he's on Strava. He's on Strava.
Oh, you pull up his Strava files. Okay.
Yeah, he puts his stuff out there.
Which approach do you like better if you're director? Do you like putting it all out there? I think I know the answer.
You know, my opinion doesn't count anymore, JB. You know,
the game has changed.
I'm old-fashioned. I mean, I would say no way I'm showing my competition what I'm doing. Why would you show that? You know, yeah. But we're living in a different era, and you know, nowadays, I mean, listen, I mean, people put on social media what they have for dinner and what they have for breakfast. So yeah. Why not put your training on there?
I would argue.
Go ahead.
That like Jan Ullrich knowing Lance Armstrong's training routine would not have helped Jan Ullrich. You can know something intellectually and then executing is probably where the moat is, that what differentiates.
And it could be intimidating. Yeah. You could go, oh my God, I'm a piece of crap here. Look what they're doing.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I mean, you know, nowadays, I mean, Van der Poel, for example, puts everything he does. I mean, even with the watts and the heart rate, it's all out there. And I mean, it's impressive. It is intimidating, actually. You know, those guys, you know, Van Aert doesn't do the same. You know, he just, but it would be equally intimidating what he does, Van Aert. But yeah, I mean, coming back to Ineos and coming back to Bernal, I think that's the question mark is there, you know, I mean, is there, can he come back to that level? I personally think he can. You know, he's a super talent, and he's the only guy, I think, who can be up there with Vingegaard, Roglic, Pogačar, and then it's Bernal, basically. You know, so I think that, you know, they're betting on him. Geraint Thomas has said already that he goes to the Giro, which, you know, I think is a good choice for him. Probably also going to be his last season. And then it's a question of, you know, what is Pidcock going to do, right? Is Pidcock wants to do the Tour. The question is, at some point, he's going to have to make a choice. You know, Pidcock has the qualities. He can climb, he can time trial. But if he keeps combining all these different disciplines, that's not going to be possible to go for the Tour de France, for the GC.
Yeah. I agree.
You know, so
today's Trades and Transfers show brought to you by Athletic Greens. Now, let me tell you about a product that I religiously use every day. I talk about this. I'm just not great when it comes to fruits and vegetables and all the stuff that you're supposed to be good at. But I was after something different. I was after a bit of a hack. I wanted better gut health, more energy. And like I said, I just wasn't that serious about the stuff I'm supposed to do. Check this out. 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day off just right. All for less than $3 a day. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just one scoop a day. Let's make this easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is head on over to athleticgreens.com/themove. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/themove. Last one of the day brought to you by Ice Barrel. I know everybody that's been on their Instagram and YouTube accounts, you've seen this phenomenon of people subjecting themselves to cold water, cold temperatures. It is revolutionary. Look, the science and the data completely back it up. It's a game changer. This will, whether you're looking for recovery, whether you're looking for just more energy, it is a game changer. Here's the cool thing about the Ice Barrel. It allows you to sit upright, which improves your breathing, because let's be honest, at first, this is tough. It looks good, doesn't take up any space. It's lightweight, portable, and you can drain it very easily. And I tell you, when you get in and you get out, you're just a different person. I've worked with Ice Barrel to get you guys $125 off so you can try it out and see if you like it as much as I do. I threw a link into the show notes, and you'll see me sharing more on social too. Head on over to icebarrel.com/themove. Use the code THEMOVE. That gets you $125 off. Again, that's icebarrel.com/themove. And the code is THEMOVE. Get colder, feel better. Let me know what you think.
that's why one of the, well, we've talked about it earlier on. One of the possibilities would be Cavendish going to Ineos, taking the pressure off Bernal, and do a mix. Bernal, if he goes into the Tour, he's definitely not going to be the favorite. He's going to have to rediscover himself, and if he has 2 or 3 guys with him, around him, that's enough. And you can have 2 or 3 other guys around Cavendish and split the pressure a little bit. And that could be to the benefit of Bernal, because at the end of the day, Bernal just has to try to follow these guys and then, whenever they're at high altitude, try to drop them. But, definitely in 2023, it's not going to be up to Ineos to control the Tour, to control the race. That's up to UAE and Jumbo-Visma. So it could be a possibility there for Cavendish and Bernal to split responsibilities at the Tour de France. But coming back to their strategy, or I don't know if it's a strategy. So there's probably. It's funny to see. Like 3-4 years ago, Ineos was the team every rider was dreaming of going there.
Yeah.
And now that has changed. Everybody wants to go to Jumbo-Visma and UAE. And no matter how much money they have, they are proving they're not able to really hire the guys that they want to have.
Well, they almost signed too many riders. And then, Dave Brailsford, I would love to have his career. I'm not slamming him in any way, but he has this funny management style where, okay, I'll pay you a lot to come in. There's 5 other riders that come in with you. And, it's like, well, we're not going to release the tour team until 4 days before it starts. It's like, well, Egan Bernal, you're going to have to earn your spot. And you wonder if they had too many like middle managers. They were like a bloated company who needed like a corporate takeover, because they were missing the big stars. They missed Pogacar. They probably should have signed him. And they just got bloated right there in that middle. And it kept riders from being able to develop into superstars. Like if you think of, even Bernal, where, he really had to fight to win that Tour in 2019. Like the team was kind of supporting Geraint Thomas. And I cannot imagine that is appealing. If you're Juan Ayuso and you're looking at that and you're thinking, I'm going to go there and I got to beat out Geraint Thomas for the Tour spot. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Plus, this new trend of having these young talents sign 4 or 5 years contracts nowadays. That wasn't the case in the past. That's new the last 3-4 years. And let's not forget, Dave Brailsford, he has stepped back a little bit from the team. He's now in charge of the whole sports project of Ineos. He's in football, and he's in. They have now set up this new academy in Africa for young African cyclists, together with the marathon runner there. I forgot his name now. The guy who did under 2 hours.
It's like Kipchoge, maybe is his name.
Kipchoge. So he's collaborating with Ineos, and they set up an academy to detect African talent, which is interesting, which is really interesting for the future. So I think Dave Brailsford is removed a little bit from the team in the day-to-day decisions, and I think it's noticeable. It's noticeable.
I like what you're saying there, because what I'm picking up is, if Ineos is not the powerhouse that they have been, to be able to take a step back and develop and do a reset and go, all right, where are we going to be in 3 years? Where are we going to be in 5 years? When you don't often get a chance to do that, it's usually for my sponsors, what do we have next year? That's it.
Exactly. But Ineos, it's one of those teams, and that's the Brailsford and the team, they're fortunate enough to have this sponsor, Ineos. This Sir Ratcliffe, I think he's the most wealthy guy in Great Britain, or one of the top 3. He doesn't care about. It's not a commercial. It doesn't have a commercial purpose. This sponsoring, Ineos is a name. It's. They have all kinds of products. The product they want to promote is actually the car, the Grenadiers, which is a car that there's Sir Ratcliffe has developed and is going to be available soon to the public. That's what they want to promote as a product. So that's on the one hand, it's fortunate to be in a position like that, because this guy wants to win. And, they say, okay, who's available right now? We can't have them. So, okay, let's see what we can do within the next 3 years. So if we can't hire anybody who can win the Tour for the next 3 years, let's develop one. Right?
We'll make it. We'll make it.
Johan said something that reminded me of something I was thinking about, where these long-term contracts, it's screwing over Ineos, basically. Like Ayuso getting an immediate long-term contract, what they used to do, their playbook was you sit back and wait for other teams to develop a young rider. Like think of Bernal was on Drone Hopper or whatever Drone Hopper was at the time. And then you just poach all these riders who other teams are developing, and it lets you just pick the cream of the crop. But these long-term contracts from the age of 17, 18, 19 are ruining that strategy. So yeah, they're just going to, develop another 5-year plan, which is impressive.
Well, that's one of the things that Ineos is actually lacking. They do not have a development team.
No. And it shows.
Jumbo-Visma has a development team, and there's some really, really good riders on that development team.
They get
look at other teams, for example, there's for example, a team like Groupama FDG. All the riders they've signed for next year, they come from their development team.
Yeah. It's kind of shocking they don't have one.
All right, guys, for the sake of time, let's just touch on quickly on a handful of other teams, just your quick thoughts. And then I want to hear who you guys think are the biggest winners and losers in the offseason. Okay. EF, you mentioned they picked up Richard Carapaz, which both of you, I think, were kind of shaking your heads at one point with that move. Any more thoughts on that?
I love it for EF.
It's good for EF. If you look also, there is definitely a big South American influence there. They have like 6 or 7 South Americans. Let's face it, Richard Carapaz, he's a great rider, but he is at his top level already. I think the best he was ever was when he won the Giro on Movistar. This season he was good. He was second in the Giro. Once again, the Giro is definitely of a lower level, or was of a lower level this year, definitely. If you think about Jay Hindley won the Giro dominantly with one stage. One stage he was really dominant and broke the whole race. But nobody thinks about Jay Hindley to be on the podium of the Tour de France, for example. So I think Carapaz, we've seen the best Carapaz. So I don't think he's gonna get any better. But obviously, great signing for them. It's gonna be their leader for the Tour de France. And I guess, he's gonna go for the podium. He's been on the podium already. But, we all know that he's not of the same level as Vingegaard, as Pogacar, as Roglic, and not even as Bernal. So, but still, good signing for them.
And you might have just hit the nail on the head. Bernal's coming back. He deduced that his chances would diminish and evaporate at Ineos because Bernal is going to take his place as the leader. Mm-hmm. But then also, if you think about it, a third at the Tour, 2 Vuelta stage wins for Ineos is disappointing. For EF, that's like a great season. So maybe he's made a savvy move and kind of changed the context of his plateauing or slightly declining performances.
He won 3 stages, eh?
3 stages. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Yes, that would be fantastic for EF.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Okay, let's touch on Quick Step. Of course, a lot of us as fans want to see Remco Evenepoel in the Grand Tours, but historically a sprinting team. Quick thoughts on Quick Step.
Mm-hmm. They got Tim Merlier, which is one of the best sprinters, one of the best Belgian sprinters, Belgian champion, important for a Belgian team. That was a deal that was done already early in the season. So obviously, he would replace a guy like Cavendish. But for the moment, I haven't seen the signings that a guy like Remco Evenepoel will need in the future. So they'll need to get their stuff together in the new signings. I mean, and probably they're already working on this now. They're not waiting until the off season of 2023. They're working on this now, and I think they're fine. They're going to be up there again. They do it every year. Remco is going for the Giro next season. His team was all right in the Vuelta. And in the Giro, you can do it with a team like that also. It's the Tour that really, demands to have this solid team that can be there every day, because the level's so much higher than any other race. So they still have time, but they need to get started to have a few more strong additions for the Tour de France team.
And that's probably why they're not going to the Tour, or why Remco's not going to go to the Tour next year, because they know that they don't have the team.
Yeah. I think that's one thing, and also I think the logical next step for Remco is the Giro, and especially also if you look at the course, Spencer. There's lots of time trialing in the Giro. There's almost no time trialing in the Tour, But for the moment, Remco is, he is at the level of. Listen, if you can win the Vuelta, and you can win the World Championships in the way he's won it, and you win Liège-Bastogne-Liège the way he's won it, why wouldn't he be able to win the Tour?
Yeah, there was no time trial in that World Championships road race, and he did just fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's touch on Alpecin. Now they're a Grand Tour team. I've heard you guys mention in the past that being that top team in the second tier is actually a good place to be. You get to pick and choose. Mm-hmm. Now they have to show up at everything, right? And they lost a couple good riders. What are your thoughts on Alpecin?
Spencer, I love this offseason because, as you say, JB, they're going up to the first division, can be a little more complicated. I think the trap is, okay, we're good at specific situations. Let's expand. Think of like Bike Exchange did this. They were a really good stage hunting team, and then they expanded out the GC. It was some success, but I think it's diluted their potency and what they were good at originally. So Alpecin's not falling for this trap. They bring in Quinten Hermans, really good stage hunter, one-day rider. He got second at Liège to best on Liège, which is like the most underrated result of the season. Soren Kragh Andersen, who's a great, stage hunter. I think he won 2 stages at the 2020 Tour. Caden Groves, kind of an up-and-coming sprinter. And then Ramon Sinkeldam from FDJ. He was with B&B and was available after that fell apart. They lose Tim Merlier, Jay Vine, 2 of their best riders. I think it was their 3rd and 4th most UCI point generating riders last year. No, there's no way to spin that positively, but they're building the blocks to recover from that. Caden Groves can kind of cover for Tim Merlier, and they still have Jasper Philipsen, who's an amazing sprinter. Jay Vine is difficult to deal with, but a rider like Vine is just going to get so expensive. As Johan was saying, there's this arms race between Jumbo and UAE. They were never going to be able to afford to keep him. So it's kind of the inevitable there.
A guy like Jay Vine also, it's still to be proven, what his value is for a team with GC. I mean, he's relatively inexperienced, right? In big races. He's shown that he has the power to climb on specific days, but we haven't seen him in a situation as being steady and being there every single day. So he does definitely have the potential to do that, but he hasn't shown it yet. So the team, it's not Jay Vine for the moment is not a cyclist that you can build a team around with guarantees that it's going to be successful. Whereas they have, let's not forget, they have Mathieu van der Poel, who is, an amazing rider. They have Jasper Philipsen, who is more and more confirming himself as being one of the top sprinters, very regular, very steady, was really good in the Tour de France this year and afterwards. And, with the addition of a guy like Søren Kragh Andersen, who in the classics will be a great addition for with Van der Poel, and I think Alpecin has gotten stronger actually. Tim Merlier didn't have a great season this year. He won a few races. He won the Belgian championships, which is very important for a Belgian team. But wherever he had to be in did he do the Giro? He didn't do the Giro, right? No, he didn't.
No, he had a bad year. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it.
And in the Vuelta, where he did nothing. I think he had his mind already with Quick Step, right? But so I think they're losing Merlier and Vine, but with the additions they have, I'm liking their approach. Those guys know what they're doing.
Well, good advice in life is just know who you are, know what you're good at, and Alpecin is doing that. They know what they're good at, and they're sticking to it.
Exactly.
Okay, Trek Segafredo. What are your thoughts?
I think the problem with Trek is, they're a solid team. It's a solid sponsor, but I think they're really limited in terms of budget to do the signings they want to do or they need. The guy they lose is Brambilla. I mean, Brambilla is okay. He's also, I think he's, with all due respect, but he's a little bit on the return. He goes to this new team, to the new
the Doug Ryder team.
Yeah, Doug Ryder's team. Yeah. Obviously Thibaut Nys is interesting. Huge talent, European champion on the road, under 23, great cyclocross rider also. But I think they want to keep developing the guys they have. They have Mats Pedersen, who's still young. They have Quinn Simmons, who I expect great things from. Really a guy who is stepping up and can win big races. And I think you see in the transfer strategy of Trek, that's what they've been banking on, trying to renew the riders that they had, that they wanted to keep, and then some additions. This young Eritrean Tesfation. It's an interesting other rider next to Girmay. The guys from Eritrea are definitely coming in, and we'll see more and more African riders in the next years following the same path. But I think Trek has remained the same more or less in terms of their quality, and I think they're a solid mid-range team. They're up there 9th, 10th position is where they are, and I think is where they will stay for the moment.
The difficulty of middle class life in the World Tour.
Yeah. Plus, let's not forget, Trek is really paying attention, and a lot of focus also on the women's team, where they have a really strong team. Not a lot of teams that we've talked about here. We can say Jumbo-Visma, they have a strong women's team, but I think the Trek women's team is one of the strongest, and I think that's also a little bit at the expense of the budget in the men's team. But it is what it is. So I think overall they're doing a quite good job, Trek.
Well, it makes sense. It never dawned on me before, but Trek as a bike sponsor, you want to put more women on bicycles.
Yeah, exactly.
It absolutely makes sense to be big, doubling down on women, right?
Definitely.
Again, quickly, a couple more for the sake of time, and then your biggest winners and losers in the off season. I hate to use the term losers, but Bahrain, who lost a lot of talent this off season. What are your thoughts?
They lose everybody. They're losing everybody. It's a terrible situation.
Yeah. They lost. Obviously Novak and Tratnik go to UAE and Jumbo. Dylan Teuns went already at the end of the season to Israel. Cobrelli retired, unfortunately, with his health problems, and Luis Leon Sanchez goes back after 1 year back to Astana, which is a bit of a strange move. He did still have a contract with Bahrain, and at his own demand or his own petition, he goes back to Astana.
It shows something's not right in there. I mean, that's a symbolic loss.
Yeah, and also, I mean, listen, Luis Leon, he doesn't need to prove anything to anybody anymore, but he obviously felt more at ease at Astana. And yeah, I mean, no new, not any significant new talent. Let's see, with Bahrain, they, Mikel Landa has announced that he wants to focus on the Tour de France to get on the podium. I really don't know how he's going to do that, but I think Bahrain is, I mean, they haven't really stood out for, bringing in. It was a team where at the first 2 years people wanted to go there, but right now I think they're struggling to convince riders to go there.
Okay, one more team. Intermarché, which we spent more time talking about in the last year because of Girmay, right? Your off-season thoughts?
I mean, I think that
Spencer.
I was just going to say, I think they've been outperforming probably their talent for a few years. They're just like good. Whatever's going on in there is working. They get a lot of production, but eventually, I don't know. I feel like this could catch up to them, and they lose Christoph, who, while he might not have been winning a lot, was scoring a lot of podiums and points. I mean, that's not an insignificant loss for them. And then Quentin Herman's obviously, like, to lose a young rider of that talent, that's got to sting.
Yeah. Jan Hirt also.
Yeah.
Good climber. Jan Hirt is a guy that reinforces Quick Step or Soudal Quick Step for the Giro and for Remco, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, they've been amazing this year in Intermarché. I think they finished 5th or 6th team in the world ranking of all the teams. So they have big shoes to fill if they want to, do the same thing. I think they're going to be fine. But at the same time, they have a few good riders, a few good young riders that are waiting there to step up. So, let's say, losing Pozzo Vivo and Christoph is not the end of the world. Quinten Hermans, probably they'll feel that one. But they're really focusing on a guy like Girmay. Girmay, they're expecting him to keep evolving, and rightfully so.
Yeah, if he has another level, I mean, he could solve all these transfer problems, like in one fell swoop.
All right, now what a lot of people have been waiting for, your thoughts, broad stroke here. Who was the biggest winner and also the biggest loser with their off-season trades and transfers? I'll go with you first, Spencer.
Yeah.
Spencer?
Oh, I go first. I mean, I take I do a big breakdown in January on my own newsletter where I take all the points that PCS points, Pro Cycling Stats points you've brought in, and what you. By the way,
Beyond the Peloton newsletter, if you want to pick that up, it's well worth it. Go ahead.
And so just objectively, UAE had the best offseason at plus, over 1,400 points. I think, though, my winner would be Jumbo-Visma. I think they're kind of putting the finishing touches on like a super team that could dominate both Grand Tours and one-day classics.
Yeah, I agree. Van Baarle is just worth his weight in gold. He can be. I mean, imagine Van Baarle and Wout van Aert together in the same team in Flanders and Roubaix. Plus, they have Christophe Laporte, who is, for example, their team is scary, and the team is scary, and in the Grand Tours also. I mean, imagine having Vingegaard and Roglic together at their top in the Tour de France. I think Jumbo-Visma did the best job. Close second is UAE. I agree. And education first, Carapaz, and then last moment, Michael Honoré, the Danish guy who got the approval of the manager of Quickstep, Patrick Lefevre, to get out of his contract and move to education first to have more chances for his own. Makes sense. But definitely UAE and Jumbo-Visma, I think, did the best job.
All right. Yeah. Who did the worst? Who had a rough couple months here?
Who's your worst pick, Johan?
I mean, for me, it's Ineos.
Yeah.
Ineos, losing Richie Porte, Carapaz, Van Baarle, and Adam Yates. How can you replace that? Bernal hopefully gets back to his level. I believe in him, but in terms of hiring and firing, I think the firing outweighs, or the firing or retiring or losing riders outweighs by far than the new additions at Ineos.
I agree. My second worst pick is Bahrain. I mean, the problem Bahrain's going to be facing is they lose these points generators, and their two best riders, Landa and Matej Modric, are good riders, but they're not super consistent. They don't score a lot of wins and points across a wide berth of races. I mean, they could be in the relegation hunt by the end of this season for the next relegation.
Spencer, that the particularity of the relegation and promotion is it's a 3-year contest. So, let's say all these teams except one team, which I still have to investigate why, DSM got their World Tour license only for 1 year. I think there's something there with the guarantees for the sponsorship of 2024, 2025. But in theory, if you get in the World Tour right now, you're okay for the next 3 years. That doesn't mean, of course, that you have to start scoring already in year one, right? But if you have it could
be a big hole to dig out of. And then the most concerning thing is, why is everyone leaving and they can't get anyone to come? That's where Intermarché could just convince someone to come next offseason. Yeah, in theory. Yeah.
I know we need to wrap this up. I'm just going to ask one more thing from you guys, just for fun. You've quickly mentioned the name Wout van Aert. What are his goals for the season? What do you expect? And if you didn't see him in cyclocross, he can win with a towel wrapped in his spokes. He's a wild card. What do you think his goals are for 2023?
For me, it's Flanders and Roubaix, Tour of Flanders, Paris-Roubaix. Those are the two biggest races for him, and he wants to win one of them. And I personally think with the team they have put together now that his chances have increased. Being the big favorite because he's by far, he's the strongest rider. He's the most talented. If you look at the team of Jumbo-Visma, is Van Aert is kind of one level ahead of Van Baarle and Laporte, and then some other. I don't have the names now, but it could also be like a disadvantage in having Van Baarle and Laporte benefiting from having this big favorite as Wout van Aert. It's not always the strongest rider in a team who wins the races. We've seen it a lot of times in Quick Step or that a second like a really good rider, but in the shadow of a big leader like Van Aert wins the race. But I think it's the same system. He came back to cyclocross. First race, he was second behind Van der Poel. Last weekend in Dublin, he was incredibly strong. Nothing can stop him. No crashes, not a towel in his rear. Even if they would have thrown him off the bike, he would still have gotten up and come back and won. So I think he's on track again to be one of the big figures of the Spring Classics.
Will he back off, Johan, later in the cross season to then prepare for the Spring Classics, or is he going all the way through World Championships?
He's going to the World Championships. That's also why he started later. But he did 2 races and he's already put a little break in. He's now in a training camp with the team. Doesn't do the next World Cup race next weekend. He's not racing, so he's definitely focusing on his road season. And sadly for all the other specialist cyclocross riders, but cyclocross is just it's like a hobby. It's something they do like on the side.
You're right, Johan. I think Roubaix and Flanders, those are the big things. Tell me why I'm crazy. Could he win the Giro d'Italia with those time trial kilometers and fairly mild for at least the Giro mountain stages.
No, listen, physically, I think he could, but he's not focusing on it, and he's not going to. He's not interested at all.
It's probably smart for his lifestyle, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he tried to win Tirreno Adriatico. He couldn't do that. It all depends who's there. And I think he should stick to what he's good at. He's one of the best, strongest riders. He can win those classics. He can be world champion cyclocross, and he can be world champion on the road. It's not bad to be Wout van Aert in cycling.
We'll settle for that, the double world championship season.
All right, guys. Thank you for your time, Johan and Spencer. I know you guys put a lot of work into it. That is obvious, and not lost on me, not lost on our listeners. Really, really good stuff. They probably would love to have these notes to go through. All of our listeners to keep track. They were probably writing all this down as fast as they could. But very, very good show.
Yeah, mine are more. I don't know if you can see
handwritten,
it,
handwritten old school. But
by the way, JB, one last thing. Is that a We Do shirt you're wearing there?
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's
oh, that's nice. I haven't seen that one.
I
know. I haven't
thin
seen that
script on that one, but yeah,
nice.
Available in the shop, and in our holiday guide is just out too.
I need to get that shirt to go together with my hat.
That's right. We do. There's a lot of good new stuff in there, and some stuff that we just picked in our holiday guide. If you don't get our newsletter, you should do that at wedo.team. So thanks, guys. We appreciate your time.
Well,
Thank you very much. Till next time. Good debut, Spencer.
Oh, thanks. I couldn't even sleep last night. I was so nervous.